Hello, lovelies. Welcome to Horror 421, the podcast, with your host, your friendly small-town horror author, Charles Campbell. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the frights in this week's episode.
This episode of Horror 421, the podcast, is brought to you by Terror Tour. Music is a killer. Virginia Morgan is the lead singer of a band called the Valley Rats. They have embarked on a regional tour. There is excitement in the air, but there's also something else. One by one, members of the band receive ominous letters at each stop. At first, they think it is a harmless prank staged by a fan. Soon, they learn it is something much more sinister. The band will have to come together to play the show of their lives if there is any hope that they can survive the Terror Tour. Terror Tour can be found at valleyboypublications.com by clicking on the Shop tab. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Horror 421, the podcast. I am your host, small-town horror author Charles Campbell, and today I have a very special guest. I found Ryan through social media. I was served an ad for a movie called The Pumpkin Man, and I love the cover. It intrigued me for sure. So I decided to click that order button, and I got the Blu-ray DVD a couple weeks later. Here it is. It's called The Pumpkin Man. It is an awesome freaking cover. And what's really surprising about it, it's an awesome movie too. So it's not just a pretty cover. It's got a great film inside. So be sure to go check it out. But my guest today is the director and writer of this film. His name is Ryan Sheets. Ryan, welcome to the program today.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're very welcome. Thank you for coming on. I'm a big indie horror nut. I love indie horror, and this was right up my alley. It's going to go into the Halloween rotation for sure, and I hope there are more coming. But
there are.
awesome. But I watched the film, loved it, and one thing off the jump is I'd like for you to introduce the audience, my listening audience, to yourself. You know, kind of let us know who you are and a little bit about your background. Then we'll get into some Q&A.
Awesome. Well, I'm Ryan Sheets. I'm a indie horror filmmaker based out of Orlando, Florida, where we shot most of this film, formerly based out of Indiana. And I'm just a big Halloween nerd. I love horror. I love Halloween, and I particularly love haunted houses. So, you know, I wanted to bring all those things together and put them into a movie.
Well, man, you did a fantastic job. So after I watched the film, I went to, kind of look at what you've done in the past, and all this started from you putting some shorts together. And the first short that I saw was The Pumpkin Man, and I've seen up to 3. I've seen Pumpkin Man 3. It was like 31 minutes long, but they were all really good. All really, really good. I really enjoyed them. And I noticed there's this guy that you've been working with basically from the beginning. His name is Jeff Rhodes. I kind of like to know a little bit about him and kind of how you two got together and put this Pumpkin Man thing together.
Sure. Yeah, Jeff and I, we were roommates in college, and we kind of bonded over our shared love of 80s slasher movies, Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, Friday the 13th. And I was a year ahead of him, so when it came time for me to do my first class project, which was a short film, I told him, hey, I want to make something in the same kind of vein as those old slasher movies. And the project was due in October, so I was like, let's make something Halloween related. And for the longest time, I've had this frustration with Pumpkinhead, because I watched the movie as a kid expecting a pumpkin-headed killer, and there's no pumpkin-headed killer. So I was taken aback by that and a little frustrated by that. And as you can see, I have decided, you know what, I'm going to make my own. So the Pumpkin Man kind of came about that way, and I've worked with Jeff on pretty much all of them. The only one he didn't have too much involvement with was the short film The Pumpkin Man Demon of Fall. But he came back to help write the feature. This was kind of our baby, and it was something that we always worked on together. It was something that we loved to do, and like we just never wanted to stop making them because they were just so much fun to do.
Well, I don't want you to stop making them either. I want to see a Pumpkin Man 2, 3, 4. But yeah, they're fun for sure, and you guys are able to capture that nostalgic feel from those old school slashers, which I won't say a lot of indie horror, but the indie horror that I really gravitate to does that, like The Barn 2, those,
Right.
it feels like an 80s movie, the way it's filmed, the way it's shot, the way it looks, the way it sounds. It brings that, I'm 54 years old, so it really ticks in my brain. Oh man, this is like fucking 1983.
For
So,
sure.
so
That was the goal.
yeah, yeah. Well, you did a great job. It
Thank
was
you.
definitely a good movie. So, what inspired the Pumpkin Man for you? What led you down the path to make these films? Kind of what sparked that fire?
Well, it was a number of things, definitely watching Halloween as a kid. That really helped me, kind of steer me more towards horror because I had always been a humongous fan of Halloween. As a kid, I'm only 28, so as a kid, my Halloween was watching like Halloween Town on Disney Channel and stuff like that. And then as I progressed, then I graduated to watching Michael Myers kill people. And
Yeah,
then I started working up the courage to go to haunted houses. And the Niles Scream Park in Niles, Michigan will forever be my favorite haunted house. And that's kind of like what elevated me to be like, okay, so Halloween should be fun, but also scary. And, when I started like I had mentioned earlier, when I had this frustration about Pumpkinhead and I wanted there to be like a proper killer with a pumpkin for a head. I always knew that I wanted to incorporate haunted houses in it in some way, shape, or form because I loved I love themed immersive entertainment. So going to haunted houses, I was like, I want to bring that to films. I want to showcase haunted houses in films. And we were lucky enough when we were filming the short films to film at the Oregon Trail in Muncie, Indiana, and we became really great friends with the owner who plays Creepy the Clown in all five original Pumpkin Man short films.
oh yeah,
And he became like a staple of the Pumpkin Man movies. Like we couldn't have one without the other. The only one that he's not in is the Pumpkin Man Demon of Fall. But yeah, I really wanted to make this killer that was all themed to Halloween, but completely my own, and also in the process just showcase how cool haunted houses are.
but yeah. Well, I love the character Creepy the Clown because he's kind of balls to the wall.
Yeah.
He's a comedian. He's a comedian that will cut your head off. So
Oh yeah. I mean, and what's funny about Creepy is that we never once wrote a single line of dialogue for him. We basically showed up and we're like, "Hey, what can you bring to the table?" And he, starts doing his thing and we're like, "Okay, so we don't have to write for you. We can
yeah,
just
he was off
we
the
can
cuff.
just yeah."
Nice, nice. Well, if you want to mention that actor's name, I don't know off the top of my head, but
His name is Michael Kine, and
Michael Caine.
truthfully, he's not even an actor. He's just this guy that decided to open this haunted trail, and when we asked if we could film there, he was like, "Can I be in it?" And we were like, "Yeah, sure." And he just became kind of intertwined with Pumpkin Man.
Wow, that's cool, man. Does Creepy the Clown have a film in his future?
you know the once you get to Pumpkin Man Returns on the short films, watch the post-credit scene and you'll have your question answered.
Okay, okay, all right. Well, like I said, I've seen the first three. Now, I think I saw the Demon of Fall. I think that's the first one I saw. Is that the
Yeah,
latest short that you made?
yeah, correct.
Okay, leading up to this film. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome too. But it was nice and creepy. I think it was like 10 or 11 minutes. I can't remember exactly how long that one was.
Yeah, that was the one that we made in 2021, which kind of secured funding for the feature film. And if you want to get technical, there is a seventh Pumpkin Man short film called Kerbis Awakened, which is in the Tales from the Book of Kerbis anthology movie that we put on the Blu-ray. Um,
Yeah, I haven't got a chance to see that, but I'm definitely going to queue that up. So that looked
yeah,
interesting to me for sure.
so that anthology kind of came about because we were planning on releasing this film last year in 2022, and then when we signed with Scream Team, they wanted to release it in 2023, and we had built this kind of following on, not a very big following, but a decent sized following of people who were excited to see the movie. in 2022, and we were like, okay, well, crap, now we have to keep the hype alive for the
Right.
next year, while because this was all happening in October. So we're like, how do we do that? And then I was like, why don't we just make a bunch of short films that all take place in the Pumpkin Man universe, and then like release them on YouTube monthly, and then we can string them all together and with a narrator, and throw them on the Blu-ray as a bonus feature. And we were like,
That
great, okay, let's do that.
that oh man, that's a great idea. So I can basically watch them here instead of perusing YouTube. Nice.
Correct. Yeah, they're all on the Blu-ray, and on the Blu-ray is the only place where you can find the full feature. It's a 45-minute long feature version with a narrator introducing each one of the shorts, and
That
it's
is fucking
yeah,
awesome.
it's very cool. The actually the guy that is the narrator, he's the creator of Reading Rainbow, of all things. So uh and he is perfect for that, like narrating. He's just got the perfect look and the perfect voice, and like we couldn't have asked for a better person to take on that role.
Oh man. Well, I definitely am going to check that out. Now I know that I don't have to go to YouTube and find the rest of them. That's awesome. I'll probably watch that tonight.
Yeah, it's
Um,
really cool.
Now, when I'm watching the movie, and I'm going to have this young lady on as a guest in the near future, we're going to do part two for Pumpkin Man for her. But there's a young lady that really caught my attention. She was the lead in your in the Blu-ray, and you called her Barbie in the behind the scenes. I read
Yeah,
Barbara. Is it Dessa?
yeah,
Dessa?
Barbara Dessa.
Barbara Dessa. Tell me how it was like working with her, and how did you get connected with her? She's super talented, and I loved her energy in the film. I just wanted to give her a little shout out here.
Yeah, so we met Barbie through backstage. We put out, a casting call for the Pumpkin Man, and we weren't sure how much, traction we were going to get on that. And because keep in mind, like we're doing this film on weekends. This is our first time doing all of this stuff, so we had no clue at all what we
Well,
were
that's
doing.
how most independent films are.
Right. So when she put in an audition, she's like, hey, I know this isn't exactly what you guys are looking for, or I'm not exactly what you guys are looking for the role, but I'm going to shoot my shot anyway. And her energy in her audition was just so great, and we offered her the role, and then we met up with her, and as soon as we met up with her, like that energy that she has in the film is exactly how she is in real life. She is zany, she is energetic, she is very bubbly, and I was like, I have this character that I have written of Catherine Quinn, but I really just want you to be you.
Right.
And because she was able to take the role and then like make this whole new character and bring a whole new aspect of Catherine that I feel like a lot of actors would have just read what was on the page and called it good enough. But no, she brought everything that she had to that role, and I couldn't thank her enough for it.
No, it was not robotic in the slightest. She had an energy that caught my attention very quickly, and her exuberance in the film is really what made me, what kind of made me, hey, wait a minute, we got something
Right.
here. So, yeah, kudos to Barbie. She did a fantastic job.
Yeah, she,
Everyone else did too, but she was kind of the heartbeat of the film for me.
yeah, and she found a lot of the other actors from the film. She because we were having a hard time casting a few of the roles, and we started talking with her, and we're like, do you know anybody? And she was like, let me put my feelers out there and see if I can and grab anyone. And she found Ariel through one of her friends. We found Matthew Beaton, who plays Michael in the film, and Ariel plays Tina. And we found crew members through her, and we found Esteban, who plays Tim. So she really, like when you say she's the heartbeat of the film, like she really is.
Nice, nice. Well, for the audience who haven't heard of the Pumpkin Man or seen the short films, kind of give us an overview of the legend of the world that you built. Without spoilers, without spoiling the film or the shorts. Kind of give us a big picture overview of the Pumpkin Man and how he came to be.
So the Pumpkin Man is this entity that has haunted this town of Cromwell for years. And, some people believe that it's real. Some people believe that it's just a legend. But people say that something happened in 1790. And it's teetering on history and fiction. And the main character, Catherine, is determined to figure out whether or not it's real or if it's fake. And they go searching for a missing piece that has been lost to time, to determine once and for all, is the Pumpkin Man real? Spoiler, he is.
He's very real. He's very real. Oh man. So what were some of the challenges you faced in putting this movie together? I did watch the behind the scenes, and I know you guys, did a lot of hard work, and you got that money together to make this movie. What were some of the challenges that you faced in putting this together and getting the finished product that we got?
I think definitely over ambition, more than anything. We definitely wrote a script for a way higher budget than we had, and trying to make everything work that we had written, without spending $100,000 on
Right.
on stuff. And there were a lot of times where we bit off more than we could chew, and it was really just not being very experienced in making something of this magnitude, and trying to rein ourselves in and say, okay, how can we do this but for cheaper, and how can we speed up this process here and there. So it was really, I think, the biggest challenge was just lack of experience, and shooting higher than what we could actually achieve.
Yeah, well, on the last episode of Horror 421, the podcast, I haven't had an independent filmmaker on, Adam Clevenger, and he kind of echoed those same sentiments. He was learning on the fly as he's
Oh
putting
yeah.
his movie together. And go see People to Kill, who the folks who haven't seen Adam Clevenger's film, it's pretty good. It's a crime drama, but won't throw that in there for Adam. But yeah, he said the same thing, kind of learning things on the fly. And I don't know if you've experienced this, but he had a big issue with sound where he just had his sound all screwed up. He wasn't
Yeah.
filming it right or whatever. But
Yeah,
yeah,
the sound, especially here, there's a lot of scenes that take place outside, and you don't even think about it until you go to film. But man, cicadas are everywhere, and they are brutal, and they will ruin your scenes. And there's a few scenes where, like, I struggled with it for the longest time, and then out of nowhere, I got an ad for audio plugins that used AI to denoise things in the background, and I hit one button, and all of a sudden the cicadas were gone, and I'm like, oh my god,
oh
it's
wow,
saved.
I might have to tell Adam about that.
Yeah, the sound is one of the hardest things, I think, to get right. And I think now, after the feature, when we started making all the short films for Tales from the Book of Kerbis, we finally got to a place where we were like, okay, now we know how to do sound. Like, even in the feature, like, I think we have decent sound in the feature. There are some areas where it still drives me crazy, but now I think, like, that was one of the hardest things to learn.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what's great about indie films in general, not just indie horror. Uh, to see the progression. I have a very good friend who's done a bunch of movies, and you can see his progression from his first film until his latest, and how much he's learned on the fly. So
Right.
as much as I love the Pumpkin Man, I'm sure the Pumpkin Man 2 is going to be even better from a technical standpoint.
I'm positive it will be.
Nice. Well, I want to pick your brain as a writer. Like I said, I'm a small town horror author. Have book number 14, 15 coming out, or just
Wow.
came out. It's called The Piano Witch, by the way, if anyone wants to check
Very
that
cool.
out. But from a writing perspective, I know you and Jeff wrote these stories. How did you come up with those ideas, and what is your process when you sit down to write? If it's a screenplay or a script or a story,
Mhm.
what kind of cycle do you go through to get your mind ready and put it down on put it on the computer?
So for me, the one of the best parts about writing this film in particular was there was actually four writers. It was myself, Jeff, my wife,
Ah,
Janae, and then our cinematographer, Nick Romery. So we all we all went all in on this thing, and I wrote an outline because like even though we all wrote the film together, the story all came from my brain.
Right.
And so I wrote an outline, and then we would get on Zoom calls, and we would figure out, okay, whose writing style lends itself best to each scene. And all like I was selfish, and I took all the horror scenes because I was like, any scene with the pumpkin man, I need to write it.
Hey, I don't blame you.
Um,
Don't blame me. I do the
uh,
same thing.
so my wife helped out, my Jeff helped out, and Nick. We all gave it our all, and found different scenes that really spoke to us, and worked well with us, and then we would go in and revise it together. But the best thing that could have ever happened when we were writing this film, we were writing in October of 2021, and I work right across the street from Universal Orlando. So I would get off of work, go straight over to Halloween Horror Nights. And that was the year that the Wicked Growth Realm of the Pumpkin Haunted House was happening at Horror Nights. So I would go over, and I had a season ticket. So I would go through the Wicked Growth as many times as I possibly could.
Ah,
And
nice.
I maxed out at going like I think 7 times in one evening. Then I would drive straight home. I wouldn't do anything else. I would leave the park, go straight home, and I would like light some pumpkin scented candles, crack open a pumpkin spice beer, and just go to town on this script because I was like in the right mindset.
Hey, I do know. I do know for sure. You got to be in the mindset to write.
Yeah,
Um,
that's why we keep pumpkins in our house year round. We never take them down. We it's always Halloween in our apartment.
well, yeah, I don't blame you. You're the pump. You're the creator of the Pumpkin Man. You want to keep that going. So I
Yeah,
definitely.
actually, you know that the like the 12 foot tall pumpkin skeleton that Home Depot
Oh
sells.
yeah, yeah.
It's sitting in the corner right over here, like in
Nice,
my office. I
nice.
keep that thing up year round.
Well, I have, and I sent it to you. So whenever you get a chance, give it a listen. This is before I knew you or knew anything about you or your Pumpkin Man movies, but I have my own little Pumpkin Man story I put out there. So make sure you check it out. It's
Oh,
called,
really?
yeah, pumpkins. It's called Pumpkin Spice and Nothing Nice. So you can,
Pumpkin spice, nothing
yeah. I
nice.
sent it to you on Instagram. It was narrated by
Okay.
my friend Henrik Kuto, and I have my own little Pumpkin Man in there. He's quite different than yours, though. He's very different, but
Okay.
you may enjoy it since you love pumpkin stuff.
I
Um,
will absolutely check that out. That sounds awesome.
but I digress. I digress. So when you were coming up and when you were a kid thinking about, these horror things, which is what I did. I loved horror. Evil Dead started me on my path with horror. Love that. But as a director, who are some of the, influences that you have from a director standpoint? Are there directors out there you gravitate towards or really like or, aspire to
Right.
be like someday?
I think some of the obvious answers for me would be John Carpenter, James Wan.
Mhm.
I'm a huge. I think The Conjuring is one of the best made horror films of all time because it's not just a great horror movie; it's just a great movie.
Yeah.
But if I'm being real, I think David F. Sandberg, the director of Lights Out, Annabelle Creation, um, I really look up to him because he started exactly where we started. He started making horror shorts on YouTube, and he made one that was really good and just kind of blew up and took off. Um, so I really respect him, and and the fact that he's made these two blockbuster horror movies and made some blockbuster movies in the DC universe. He made Shazam,
Yeah.
and but he still takes time to still make horror shorts on YouTube and still give like tutorials on the equipment that he's using and stuff. I really respect people who are in a high place of status but are still very down to earth and are like still trying to educate people.
Yeah.
on the way that they do things, and their thought processes and stuff like that. So I really think that he's a great dude, and like I've always looked up to him, and it's particularly his directing style. I think that he manages to have like that perfect blend of both scary and fun.
Well, that's a great story. And everyone starts somewhere, and one of those kinds of people that you're talking about, is Keanu Reeves. He does that kind of thing all the time.
Right. Yeah.
He's just a normal dude.
Yeah. Just a normal guy that happens to be famous. Like I really respect people who don't let it go to their head.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. And you ticked off the right boxes for me too when you talked about John Carpenter. And
Yeah.
what did you think about 1982's The Thing?
Oh, I remember watching that one as a kid and just being blown away by the fact that none of it was made by computers. Like,
That's where I was
I
going with this.
yeah, my favorite movie of all time will always be Jurassic Park. And that's just when CG was starting to take over.
Right.
But so whenever I was watching a movie as a kid, I'd look at when it was made, because I always watched behind the scenes featurettes and stuff
Same
on
here.
DVDs, and because I just wanted to know how this stuff was done. And when I watched the one for Jurassic Park as a kid, and I realized that, okay, well, any movie before 1993 probably doesn't have CGI in it. So I would look at the year it was released and said, okay, everything that you see in this movie is going to be real. Like they made this some way or somehow. So when I saw The Thing, I mean, I couldn't even comprehend how any of this stuff was real, but it looks so good, and even today, I think it still holds
Oh,
up so
it
incredibly well.
stands up so well, man. And I'm 1,000% with you. CGI has its place in modern films. It does,
Yeah,
but for me, you got me if you're using practical effects. I mean, all
yeah,
those old '80s movies and most indie horror, and when you have really great practical effects, that's even better. I don't
yeah.
even mind the cheesy practical effects because they're practical effects, and I know that's what they could afford when they were making that film. Uh,
Yeah, that's the way it was for us when we were making the Pumpkin Man. We used what we could afford, and we used tricks with the camera to imply gore and stuff, but not necessarily show it. And there's one kill in the film that has gone on to win an award for best kill. And like, if you really slow it down and do it frame by frame, like, the kill itself makes no sense, but it all happens so fast that people are taken aback by it, and really really like shocked and stunned when it happens.
I think I know what scene you're talking about.
I'm sure you do. it's
Yep, yep.
it's the most like, oh my god one of the whole movie.
Yeah, that was the one. I was like, wait a second here. But
Yeah.
yeah, you guys gotta check it out. The Pumpkin Man, screamteamreleasing.com. Um now when I was watching the behind the scenes, I got super jealous, man. Super jealous. Because I saw you rocking this awesome ass Pumpkin Man t-shirt. I went online trying to find one. I was like, I gotta have one of those shirts. Are you guys gonna put out any apparel to go with that movie? Just curious about that.
Yes. Yes. So we actually just sent all of our merchandise to Stream Team. So they will be putting it on their website very soon. It should have been actually delivered yesterday to them. So I'm hoping sometime this week it'll go on the store. And we've tried to do stuff with like you know um on demand printing for shirts, but I've never liked the quality of them. They always
Right.
like crack and peel and stuff. So I wanted these to be like really really good t-shirts, and they're full screen printed. They look awesome, and I'm very excited for people to actually be able to order those.
Yeah, well, the graphic that I saw you was the same graphic that's on the cover of this DVD,
Yes.
and dude, I'm gonna buy a poster of this and put on the wall because I love that graphic. Who put the graphics together for you? I'm super curious
So
about that.
so that was Casey Booth. He's an artist based out of Texas. You can look him up on Instagram and Facebook. He goes by Casey Booth Art on there. But I was looking for a poster artist. I started scrolling through his social media, and I saw stuff that was very much in the same like vein of what I was wanting for our poster. And I reached out to him. I was like, "Hey, man, do you do commissions?" And he was like, "Absolutely." And he's done the poster for the Pumpkin Man, and he did the poster for Tales of the Book of Kerbis. So, just I will give every opportunity to shout him out because he is such an incredible artist.
Yeah, hang on to that guy. I might hit him up for a book cover. I mean, I've got
Yeah,
some, yeah, I've had some pretty amazing people do book covers for me, but I'm always looking for other avenues too. And I you know, I love that. That's really what caught my attention
yeah.
when the ad came across. I was like, that looks cool as shit. So
And I knew that the poster was so important, because like I feel like the art of the movie poster has very much been lost in modern Hollywood.
oh
It's
yeah.
just a big collage of faces and stuff on a piece of paper with the logo now, and I knew that that's not at all what I wanted with this film. I wanted something that just it told the entire story. Like it tells you everything you need to know about the movie just by looking at the cover. You're like, the Pumpkin Man. I know what it's going to be about. So he knocked it out of the park with that.
Yeah, he certainly did. He certainly did. Um, so you kind of hinted at it a little bit earlier in the podcast. What is the future of the Pumpkin Man? What can we look for coming down the pike?
Well, I can confidently tell you that the script for the Pumpkin Man 2 has been written. It is we are still working out a few things in pre-production. Hopefully sometime in the next 6 months, probably more into 2024, we'll begin filming. But what I can kind of tease is that it is a wild ride that does not slow down, and it definitely goes in I think a different direction than people would assume that it would go in. We are not telling the same story again. We are expanding on the story that we have told, and it's just going to keep getting bigger.
Okay, well, it's not Creepy the Clown in the opening scene killing the Pumpkin Man and saying, "This is my movie, bitch." It's not that, right? Okay.
No, it is not that. However, I will do anything to get him back down here and filming in these movies because I need more creepy in my life.
Oh yeah, I loved him, man. He was funny, and he's a killer. So those are two good combinations.
Yeah, that's all you need.
Yeah. So, do you have any? You work with a number of actors on this film. Do you have any funny stories or anything that sticks out in your brain that you guys did on set that maybe you could share with the audience? What was something fun that happened during the filming?
Well, I think the funniest thing that happened while we were filming actually happened to me. And I don't know if we've mentioned this yet. I play the Pumpkin Man, so I am the man behind the mask. I directed the movie, but I'm also fully in there acting as the Pumpkin Man. And I'm not very tall. I'm only like 5'8", 5'9". So to get me to be as tall as we wanted the Pumpkin Man to be, we decided that I was going to learn how to walk on stilts. So I'm closer to like 8 feet tall when I'm fully in the costume. And in the original ending of the film, we actually reshot the whole ending. But in the original ending of the film, there was a moment where the Pumpkin Man falls down, and obviously, if at 8 feet tall, you don't want to just fall down
No.
onto the ground.
Yeah.
So we got this air mattress, and that way I could safely land on it, and land, like, fall out of the shot, and then we can cut it together with me falling to the ground from a lower height. So we got this air mattress, we blew it up, and we were ready. We had the camera straight on towards the Pumpkin Man, and I just fall backwards onto the air mattress. Well, what we didn't account for was the laws of physics. And when I went down, the rest of the weight of the stilts just comes flying back up into frame. So you see me fall, and then you just see my legs go. it just looked so funny. And I mean, we were dying on set for forever after that because it just, you have this horror villain that looks scary, and then when something like that happens, it just sucks all the fright out of it.
Yeah, all the scariness is gone.
Yeah.
It was a great pumpkin, Charlie Brown.
Exactly.
Nice, nice. Did you have any pranksters on set? Anyone like to pull pranks on folks?
Um, I was mostly the
You-
prankster
You're
because
the prankster.
because a lot of people, when I got into costume, they were like, "Oh, it's just Ryan. It's not going to scare me." No, I could still scare them. Like I would walk up behind people as they're having conversations and get like right over their shoulder until they noticed. And Barbie in particular had from the at the beginning of the movie, Barbie could barely look at me because she was genuinely terrified of me. And every time we had to do like a moment where there was like a jump scare where Pumpkin Man like goes rawr and
Uh,
jumps at her, like every time she screams in the movie at something like that, it's 100% genuine. Like,
nice. Well, it felt genuine for sure. It felt genuine for
yeah.
sure. Oh man. Well, now is the time of the podcast where I want you to say anything you want to say. Tell everyone where we can find the Pumpkin Man, where we can find you on social media, everything about Ryan. I'm going to put everything down in the links, in the notes below. I'll put all the links to where you can find the Pumpkin Man and Ryan's social media stuff. But Ryan, the floor is yours to share what you will, to plug the Pumpkin Man and your work.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all under the same handle at Pumpkin Man Film. You can also find me on Twitter and Instagram at Ryan Scares. And if you want to buy the film, it's available at screamteamreleasing.com. It's out on Blu-ray, DVD, and VHS, which I think is really cool. It came out on VHS.
Yeah.
And then our merchandise should be coming up on the website pretty soon. And if you're in Florida and you want to meet the Pumpkin Man and also buy a copy of the movie, we will be attending Spooky Empire and Spookala, two conventions in both Orlando and Tampa, respectively. We have a booth there this year, and Pumpkin Man will be there all weekend. Take pictures with people, talk to people, and yeah, sell the movie. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Yeah, I do the Days of the Dead convention in Atlanta. I live 2.5 hours away from Atlanta, so I do that every year. I have a vendor table set up, and I've seen the Scream Team releasing setup there a couple of times. I believe they're the same folks that put the barn two.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've talked to Justin Seaman. He's been on the show. So all you guys with Scream Team are great. They've been good to me. I've had a few guests from Scream Team releasing and folks associated, just like yourself. So
Yeah, they're awesome to work with for sure.
yeah. Well, before I sign off with what I'm going to say, what are the conventions like for you? How long have you been doing those, promoting the Pumpkin Man? Have you have you been to a few of those in the past year?
Yeah. So it started off with us just attending the conventions, with me in costume, just walking around. At Spooky Empire in 2022, the Pumpkin Man was actually playing at their film festival at the convention. So I was walking around and we were handing
Oh,
out
nice.
flyers and stuff to say, "Hey, the movie's playing tonight. We'd love it if you came and watched it." And then we went to Spookala last December, and again, people really just seem to gravitate towards the character. It's not even like a character that they know. It's just they see this pumpkin headed dude and they're like, okay, we want to take pictures with him. And then last we did Spooky Empire again in May, and that was great. And then we finally had a booth in Spookala in June, and that's really where our like most of our following on social media came from, because people just fell in love with it when they would come by our booth. And we were selling t-shirts and just getting out there, promoting the movie, promoting the release. And now we're really excited because the next two conventions are going to be the first times that we actually have the movie to sell, and it's going to
Yeah.
be I think it's going to be a much different experience, watching people walk away with the movie knowing that they can go home and watch it.
Yeah, and that's awesome, man. And when I'm at Days of the Dead, I make sure that I go visit some indie horror tables and pick up films because we support one another in the horror community.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
I love picking up indie horror movies, man.
Yeah.
I can't wait to get home and pop them in the DVD player. They're
it,
awesome.
It is pretty exhausting though when I'm at these conventions because I'm in character nonstop. And it's more improv than I think I've ever thought I would have to do in my life.
Yeah.
Because I'm fully in character, and especially the kids, man, like messing with the kids is so much fun. Because they're one of two ways. They're either not scared at all or they're horrified. And either way, I'm like, I have to do my thing.
Yeah, man, those conventions are awesome.
They're a lot of fun.
They really are. And the folks there, they come in all shapes, sizes, and colors, and they're all mostly awesome people. The horror community's got a great group of folks, man. Good hearts under the spooky exterior.
Exactly.
All right, guys. I am Charles Campbell. I'm a small town horror author. You can find me at valleyboypublications.com. You can find most of my links there. I do have a Horror 421, the podcast Facebook page, and I also host a music podcast for musicians only called Backstage 421. You can check that out. And my latest release is The Piano Witch. I have books over in the corner, but I don't want to get up and walk across the room. The cover of The Piano Witch was done by John Stoney Cannon. You can find it for purchase at valleyboypublications.com. And that's it for Horror 421, the podcast this week. Thank you again, Ryan, for being on the show.
Thank you very much.
And go get your copy of The Pumpkin Man immediately. ScreamTeamReleasing.com. It'll be in your Halloween rotation, I promise. I've got a stack of movies I watch in October, and this has been added to the stack. So great job.
Glad to hear that.
All right, guys. We'll see you next time on Horror 421, the podcast. All right. Thank you, man. That was awesome.
We hope you had a horrific time, lovelies. Thank you for tuning in to Horror 421, the podcast. Be sure to like us on YouTube and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.